You're okay. We're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. I hope you all are doing well. I haven't seen anything in the news. Has there been anything? Hi, Auntie Bellas. Thanks for joining us again. Has there been anything crazy? Hi, PS Kittens of Paws. I love the usernames. Y'all are so creative. Anything crazy happening in the news? I haven't seen anything. Everybody, you can hear me okay? Sound okay? I'm kind of far enough, but this is a really sensitive mic, and I think you can hear me good. I think the camera's good. Everything's good. Everything's just great. So we appreciate you all being here. We're going to try to come in a couple times a week. Nothing crazier than what is already happening. I did see 2 videos right before I came online that they are now in Indiana. And that doesn't surprise me. I felt like Indianapolis was going to be a target, and Southern Indiana as well. Southern Indiana has a massive, it's not a secret to anybody, a massive Hispanic population. Much to the benefit of the economy of Indiana. And so this is going to be interesting. Moon Sky, can you share which state you are in? Kitten says there is one girl that got deported from her university as a freshman and deported to Honduras. Michigan, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I can see them wanting to target blue state. Indiana is a red state. Indianapolis is a blue bubble, considered a blue bubble. There's not any real true blue bubble anywhere in Indiana. We're kind of purple in different places, but not necessarily. Roger, I am not you. I am an interfaith, interspiritual minister. And the 5-year-old that had a bunny hat got sick today. He's still in detention, correct? I haven't seen anything different, that he is still in detention. That's what I thought. So, thank you, punks. Hi, it's good to see you. I know you're probably experiencing the same thing the rest of us are. We're at, my account here has about 779,000 people, and we've got 16 people, and I appreciate all of you being here, but it's a signal of things to come and how quickly I think things are going to spiral away from those of us who are in this social activism space, that our accounts are going to be quickly suppressed, if not taken down. And I've already talked to a couple of creators who have significant warnings on their accounts, so it's only a matter of time. I keep checking ours. Right now we don't. So I want to try to come here as often as I can, or post as much as I can. But I want to remind you that you can find me on other platforms, and the kind of content I put here, I put in other places, thanks to Lynette. Thank you so much for all the shares and the likes. Thank you, literally. I like the way you spell that. Great to see you. You were one of the first creators I followed. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And thank you, Auntie Billis, for sharing the live. That does help. That does help immensely. I'm not sure how much. Hi, Sue Ellen. I'm not sure how much things get pushed out to the FYP. Be that as it may, we had a really good conversation here yesterday, and we talked about some of what is going on. But it's a place to answer your questions. Now, we pick these questions. Some of them are from DMs, some of them are from comments, but most of those will come from the Substack community. We are definitely trying to pick. Luck to you, punks. Luck to you as well. We're sending that to you. You don't need it. You're highly qualified. Go for it. The world is yours. And I'm not trying to minimize the anxiety around that. I'm just trying to give you good thoughts. I know that there's so much anxiety around job security, job loss. So I wish you all the best. Come back and share with us how the interviews go. So we will be prioritizing the questions from that platform. But the reality is that, especially what we're seeing here, is we are suffering the consequences from a Congress who decided to take action on an app whether or not the risk was real. They ignored the concerns of those of us who use the app, and they placed it right in the hands of the enemy, another massive MAGA supporter who's going to make sure that the content that we put out is going to more align with the Trump administration than what we've been able to do in the past. So that's the reality. Like I said, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, that we're going to be able to stay here, but we'll stay as long as we can, and we'll ride the ship down and see what we can do. But your best bet is to find us on other platforms as soon as possible. Thank you, LJR. It's good to be here. I was here yesterday. I answered some questions. Lynette, who's in the queue, she'll be uploading those. The entire live will be live. I think it's already there on YT. So if you want anything from that. But one of the questions that I wanted to answer, I decided we'd already gone live for about 90 minutes yesterday. So I wanted to give this a little bit more thought in preparation, because what I want to talk about is some of what we should be doing to prepare. And I don't want you to expect a lot as far as resources or things like that, because I simply cannot be the keeper of a database of that kind of information. But I can tell you a little bit of the things that I've done. I can tell you what I've heard. I can tell you some of the creators that I follow to get information, and I can tell you what I think is going to happen. And so that's the conversation I want to have today. If you have questions that you want me to answer, you can drop them in into the chat. Lynette will grab them. She'll keep people on cue. So, because once I start directing my attention to my notes, I'm not going to be able to pay a lot of attention to the chat. But she's in here. She's amazing. She's taking care of all those things. She's the one who, once I create one piece of content, whether it's in written form or whether it's a video, she ensures it gets to all the platforms and takes care of everything. So everybody say hi to Lynette and thank her for being so detailed and taking care of all the stuff that she does to keep us going in all the different places. All right. And I also can't forget to drink water. Oh, y'all are sweet. Sue Ellen, will Christianity ever recover? Oh my gosh. Do you have an hour, Sue Ellen? I can't talk about that today. I want to talk about it all. It's all I want to do. I was talking to my stepdaughter yesterday, and it is all I want to do. I want a situation room. I want a big, massive table and a big, massive whiteboard to be talking about all the things that we need to be doing. And possibly that's where every community needs that kind of strategic planning going on. I mean, I'm certainly feeling it, not just from my personal perspective, but also as a community activist and a sacred activist, which is why I spend so much time on the details, building these bridges from our past to today. So, I just posted a video about something Jimmy Kimmel said, about where he said, well, I firmly believe that the right can solve this. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No. Now, in the video, I am more patient a little bit more methodical, but part of me is like, are you kidding me? Of course. I love Jimmy Kimmel. I listen to him every morning. I can't stay up that late and watch him at night, but I listen to him every morning because I think there is a benefit to laughing about some of the insanity of this. But I thought, of course a white man would say something so ignorant that reflects his own patriarchal indoctrination, that thinks that this romanticizing that someone's going to do the right thing, when in our American history has Christian patriarchy ever done the right thing? When all rights have been fought for, people have lost their lives over, left to their own devices, they annihilate people for the sake of manifest destiny and dominion theology. And this narrative that if God is for us, then who can be against us? And you're going to put it on their plate that they're going to solve this? No doubt that there are people on the right who are horrified. I'm not saying it's the entirety, but they ain't going to solve this, hon. It's not going to be them. It's going to be us. That shifts the burden of responsibility away from us. That certainly feels comfy, doesn't it? But it's not reality. It's not reality. So you have to go see that video. I'd appreciate it if you would like it and share it, because we are having a little trouble with here on this app. Exactly, Allison. Exactly. Never. Exactly. So, Ellen, I agree with you. I do not think Christianity can recover as well. Baba I'm sorry. I'm going to mess that up. So I'm not even going to try. I'm scared we're going into the 1940 Germany situation 100%. I just posted it. Shortcut. I just posted it. All right, here's the question I'm answering. Could you do a post on what that means? And what she was talking about was, I did a video saying, and I've done it several times, where I said you need to prepare. You need to prepare that there's active forms of resistance. That's in protesting, that's in calling your senator, that's in seeing about, making sure that we're preparing for the midterms, even though I will tell you that I think there's a greater than 70% chance that the midterms are not going to happen. Call me a pessimist, but I feel like I'm being a realist. Anyway, we continue to work on those things, but then I believe that there's some things that we need to do to prepare ourselves, our home, our communities, being a part of that, because I do think that they could get worse. And I would rather be wrong and overly prepared than underprepared, because a power structure that relies on chaos and confusion and fear for control benefits from your lack of preparation. Benefits from you needing to hold your hand out and say, how can you help me? So that is the kind of preparation that I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about panicking. I'm not talking about hoarding, but I'm talking about being very methodical, logical, logistical, strategical with how you're going to prepare. And I won't even pretend that I have all the answers. I don't. But this will at least give you some information. So what will happen with this video is the video in its entirety will end up on YT, and then clips of it will be played in different places. And then, Lynette, do you think that we could make this into some kind of checklist or something that could be put on Substack? Or it doesn't have to be real, but maybe just some talking points of some things that I share. Do you think we can do that? I may have lost her.
Yes, I'm still here. We absolutely can.
Okay, very good. All right, so like I started at the beginning of this, good trouble, that is part of preparation, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Preparation is an act of resistance. We cannot turn away from the crisis that we're facing. We have to think of this in a way as some type of personal collective insurance. There are things that we do to prepare our home, to keep our family safe from whether it's impending storms, from stranger danger, from anything like that. We have to use that same kind of mindset to think, what would I need if the basic necessities that make life not only comfortable but sustainable were not in existence, or they were jeopardized, or they were taken away, or even just for a few days to a month. So the way a lot of people who have a lot more experience in this than I do say is to think about starting with a week. It's not just going and cleaning the shelves with bread and milk like we do right before a storm. It's about, if your family was going to be without basic necessities, meaning electricity, heat, water, what would your family need for a week to survive? How would you keep them warm? How would you feed them? What kind of medical supplies were necessary? Because there are some people who absolutely need to think about things differently depending on the circumstances that you have. And you may not be financially able, physically, logistically able to meet all those needs. Then what in your community is out there that you can find to help you with some of what those circumstances look like? So you start with 1 week, and that can be with your water supply, your food supply. Again, how would you heat it? How would you take care of your family? And how would you keep them safe? And with that, I'm talking personal protection. And that's as far as I'm going into that conversation, because it's something that I'm experienced with. You're not raised in Kentucky and you're not experienced with personal protection. I'll just say that and be comfortable with it. You have uncles who were Vietnam veterans who felt it was their duty to teach every child on that farm to be comfortable around ways to protect yourself. It's something I know about. It's not something I can teach. So you have to use your experiences and knowledge and what you're comfortable with to say, what do I need to do to protect my family? And you take that conversation with those in your trusted circle. And sadly, for many of us, that circle has gotten smaller within our family, because for many of us, we have so many people who don't agree that our country is under threat. And those aren't the people you need to be having conversations with right now. As cold-hearted as this is going to sound, what do you need to do to protect yourself means the people that rely on you, that are aligned with you. That sounds cold-hearted, that is where we are right now. Now, if you can take that out, like if you have aging parents who aren't aligned with you politically, those are conversations that you need to have out in the framework of your familial structure. I'm not going to tell you to ignore people. I'm not going to tell you to that, whether or not you should be going no contact with people. That is between you and your family. You're deconstructing, you're decolonizing. For many of us, we have gone no contact. For many of us, we have had those conversations. For many of us, we had to walk away, just like when we walked away from church. But you're looking at really having a candid conversation with those within your trusted circle and with yourself, with your moral compass. Who am I responsible for? Who am I the keeper of? Who do I care for? And how would I keep them alive for 1 week if I did not have the basic things that makes life comfortable and sustainable? And you make that list with, like I said, food, water, and the experts of this kind of prepping says to think of storm prepping, think of stranger danger. Those are the things the communications that you need to have. They highly recommend that you have at least a week's worth of water, preferably 2, for the number of people in your house. You calculate so much that you use each day, not only drinkable water, but non-potable that you use for different functions, shower, toiletries, things like that. Communications plans. If all of a sudden the entire communication grid goes down, how are you going to where does your family know to meet up? How are they going to communicate with each other? And they highly recommend that you have walkie-talkies. There's some really, really high, powerful walkie-talkies out there. I can't remember the brand I'll have to ask my stepdaughter. She's the one who did the research on that for us. Okay, yes, Polly says plant a garden if at all possible. MJ says, what's funny is my lib aunt cut me out of her life for wanting to be a conservative priest. Well, I'm okay, thank you. It sounds like I don't know what that was supposed to do with that conversation. I'm sorry that they did that. Can't imagine. Anyway, when I heard you prepping, I started getting stuff ready too. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, I mean, I've done some things, and I've talked a little bit about here as far as water, being able to purify water, those purifying sticks, the tablets, all those things. I have those. I did a round of freeze-dried food. I ordered that from a company that's now out of business. But you can also look at places like Azure Foods, Azure. Your food co-ops oftentimes will have a really nice supply of dehydrated foods. You can get those meal prep kind of things. But again, those are more long-term. If you're looking for a week, you can get by with soups, and as long as you have ways to keep cold cuts and things like that chilled, then it's a more convenient way to think about a week at a time versus long term. And when you get into some serious prepping, you've got people who really know what they're doing. Like they have years worth of food. And I do have some resources for you to follow that I'll share in just a minute. But they do have a basic needs checklist. And like I said, water is the first one, shelf-stable food. But think about the things that you eat, but not just what you eat, but also your picky eaters. If all of a sudden they can't have chicken nuggets 3 times a day, what are you going to do? Or if they absolutely have to have certain kinds of foods because of sensory issues, and I have family members that are like that, how are you going to make sure that they get food that's sustainable for them? They need sustenance, so how are you going to feed them? Of course, prescription meds, first aid basics. There is let me go ahead and just name her now. Poly Prepper, at POLY Prepper. Let me put it in the I just put it in the comments. I think I put her name right. That she does to-go bags. She's my mutual, and she'll show you the kind of things that you want to put into an emergency to-go bag. So let's say that you have an emergency where you cannot stay in your home. Having a bag ready that has everything that you need in it, including your identification, stuff like that. You want all that there. Lynette, just add a comment every once in a while so people know what we're doing here, and that will be grabbing your questions for later. Of course, your flashlights, batteries, phone chargers. Peelies and Petals has a really good video on prepping like that, and I'll put her name in here as well, so you can see not only does she do a lot with kind of like food prep, she also talks about emergency prep and storm prep, which is really, really good. She also talks about personal protection in her videos. Think about your daily routines. Even if you have a disruption in the services, and childcare isn't available, or elder care isn't available, but yet you still have to go to work, what kinds of things are you going to have to rely on? If you can't solve that problem internally, then put that on the list, that when you start to look outward in your community on how your community is preparing, perhaps there are people who are starting to plan like that. I mean, we are talking about some serious conversations, not only around the dinner table, but also in your community, because we must prepare for a disruption in services that can change our lives. And I'm not saying that will happen, but it very well could happen. And I'm not the only creator who looks down the line to say, this is such a real possibility that people who have lived this, who understand the commitment to see Christian nationalism become the dominant, not only in the ways that we've known it in the past, because Christian patriarchy has always been the dominant force in our government structure, in our education, in our homes. We're talking about Christian nationalism, where you're seeing things that are even more radical than what Indiana just is trying to put in with eradicating the rights of the LGBTQIA+, one of the strictest abortion bans, wanting to put the 10 Commandments back into the classroom. Everybody's got their eyes over here on Oklahoma, and you have no idea what a lot of these other red states are doing, because they're just quietly doing it because they're super majorities. We're talking about a complete suffocation of other rights if it doesn't filter, if it's not approved by this Christian nationalist narrative, and what they're willing to do to make that happen. Our entire indoctrination prepared us for the reality that violence was justified if it advanced the kingdom of God. I want you to hear that again. That is part of the Christian indoctrination that supports Christian nationalism. The reality that violence is justified if it advances the kingdom of God. You're talking about the people like Mike Johnson and Caroline Levitt, Mike Johnson, who wants us to believe that he's the modern day Moses and has no qualms whatsoever getting up and lying and misrepresenting and providing misinformation, because in this side of Christianity, that too is justified. The rest of us are considered useless because we're not part of the saved. Not part, because in their view, in their belief system, it's a very narrow subset of Christians that are going to make the cut. So you can lie, deceive, threaten, gaslight, intimidate, and resort to violence to advance the kingdom of heaven. And when I was looking through some of my older writings going back 10, 11, 12 years, where I was talking about this and being mocked, and it's all here. And so for those of us who have watched us be stair-stepped down into this abyss, we know what's waiting at the bottom of this abyss that we're headed for. So while we want to believe that we have the ability to change the trajectory, we haven't done it yet. We just haven't come together and done it yet. Thank you, Lynette. I was going to block him. Jesus. And then Tom comes in to ask, what is a woman? I can't with them. I'm just taking a break. I'm just taking a break. Thank you, kittens. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy, especially when I'm on, Natalie, we need some leaders, some really strong leaders, and that's why I'm kind of trying to do my part here to at least, even though we're not, we need people on the national platforms and on the even international, the ones who really have these mega microphones, to be screaming this and talking about preparation, talking about massive organization for resistance. I'm just going to keep screaming it. I'm going to keep talking about it until my platforms are even further restricted or then taken away. That's what's going to happen. So we're going to go back. Let's talk about a couple of things, and then you want to start. Like I said, you want to think about 1 week, and then you want to think about beyond that. And that's where get your go bags done. Think about the supplies you need for 1 week, and then think about beyond 1 week. And that's where you really start thinking about dehydrated foods, freeze-dried foods, the meal-ready packets like you can get at Costco and Sam's Club and places like that. But some people then really get invested, get your own dehydrator. Some people go in together to get a freeze-dry machine. Anything that you need to do to help stock those shelves ahead of time, do what you can. People are putting things under their beds, in their closets, whatever you have to do. But what I really want to get to, because like I said, there's a lot of people out there who's teaching you about meal prep, and I'll share some more information in just a minute. But where the real conversation needs to be happening is in community. This is where you start thinking about a pod. You're a little pod in your family where you're thinking about what you need to take care of to see your family through a week with no heat and no water and no electricity. But then what do you need to do to think outside of your community? Because you will be impacted by that. You're going to need people. You're going to need people to help you with some level of some kind of resources. So look around to see if people have a mutual aid organization. A lot of mutual aids arose during COVID, but a lot of them kind of went defunct after a couple of years when they were no longer needed. They're starting to become active again. And once again, looking at the way the structure of the community, the resources that are there, and what people are willing to do and to provide for those gaps that people are going to need. For instance, I said, what if you have to go to work and you have a child, but your child care is no longer in existence? What things need to happen? So one of the things that I did for our mutual aid organization was I literally made a resource of everything, every food drive, every place, every schedule for people where you could pick up food, from churches to nonprofits to whatever was happening in there, to vets offices who were offering drop-off care, emergency care, to whatever was happening. We had a massive database where people could go to that and find the information that they need. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. It really was useful for people. Hopefully, that's already happening in your community, and you can start to either check in to see how you could contribute, because again, you're not expected, you cannot solve all the problems inside your family and inside your community. There's one thing you can do, and you need to do that one thing. And when many of us come together to do those things, then it becomes less burdensome for us all, and all of the needs can be met. So the main thing is how are people going to be fed? How are people going to be sheltered? How are people going to be protected? Because there's a big difference between how you need to prepare in a red state versus how you need to prepare in a blue state. And you're already starting to see that now, because there are coalitions coming together to move people who are at risk of harm in red states. There's like Rainbow Railroad kind of organizations that are happening. People who are losing their services and how they're going to get them out from one state into another. Those conversations need to broaden and expand, but these are the kinds of conversations that we need to happen, because what is probably going to happen, maybe it won't. No, I'm sorry. It does need to happen. It's this preparation needs to become part of our mindset, because we have never lived through anything like this. So I think for many of us, we're in denial that it actually can get worse, or it can actually land on our doorstep. But we are just now starting to feel the trickles of the economic impacts that are going to happen from the funding that has been stripped from the infrastructure of our society. We have not even begun to feel the trickles of that. I can't speak informatively about the housing crash that some people are warning about, or the financial crash that's coming our way, the tsunami that's coming our way. But it's all related to how this funding has been stripped. And when they talk to you and they romanticize the fact that nonprofits are going to swoop in and handle this stuff, I am telling you right now, that is not going to happen. That is an arm of corruption that is waiting to just be born. And by that I mean that because of this link to Christian nationalism and churches, and I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers when I say this, but churches aren't required to disclose their financials. So you can have churches put out a massive call to feed people and have money pouring in from them, or a lot of wealthy people give to give to a church to feed people in a community, and oh my, doesn't that look great? And it will pale in comparison to the funding that we just lost from the government systems that were empowering people to rise above the poverty level upon which this classic structure has existed for generations. It's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to that, and there's not going to be any financial or auditing oversight over it because churches are not required to disclose their financials. This is massive corruption getting ready to happen, but it will look really, really good. It'll look aesthetically pleasing for churches to be the forefront of that handout. I am not saying that there aren't churches out there doing really good things, but this is a massive problem and a massive flaw inside our structures, inside IRS reporting guidelines. And again, don't get me going too far down that rabbit hole, but there is absolutely no way that nonprofits can pick up the burden. It'll be a drop in the bucket. It will just look good. And the intent is to make us believe that things are going well when they're not. The slide down below for people who've constantly struggled, the lower middle class, and those who live below the poverty line are going to continue to suffer until they don't exist. Is that who we are? Are we good with this? No. No, we're not. So we have to have a mindset from this point forward to not be fooled by any of these press conferences, by any of these press releases that Trump puts out that pretends that, like the mega donor in Texas who gave all this money for education, again, a drop in the bucket for what the nation needs to fix education in our school systems. But it plays well to the media, and then we think that everything's going to be okay because somehow the mega rich is going to solve these problems. Are we serious? Do we really think that's going to happen? And if that's the case, why haven't they done it before now? And why did you have people like Samaritan's Purse, I think is the name of it, the one that's run by Franklin Graham, and the others who were in Trump's office right after USAID was pulled because they knew their nonprofits could not handle the need. But what they realized was they had to get on board really quickly and shut up, or they were not even going to be a benefactor of what this system was getting ready to happen within this system. At the very end, the Christians will be compliant to make sure that they don't get toppled off that Christian patriarchal structure and be impacted too greatly. So our mindset has to change, y'all. That doesn't mean we panic, but that means we read through the lines. We read between the lines. We read with a skeptic's mind. We read with our eyes open. We're no longer asleep. We have shaken off the indoctrination. There's nothing they're saying to us that's going to convince us that unless this entire structure is annihilated, then what is coming our way is going to harm us. And the first to be impacted will be the ones who have always been impacted first. The ones who have been pushed to the margins of our society because of the color of their skin, because they sit outside the confines of what the construct of what people say is acceptable normative standards. They don't look like, believe like, or love like the rest of the Christians. So who cares what happens to them? The Christians who believe in their moral and spiritual superiority over all of us. So this is the part I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say this to scare anybody, but I'm going to make sure that from now on, at least a couple times a week, I'm going to talk to you about this. First of all, stay informed and stay educated. Make sure, besides people like Heather Cox Richardson, you have a trusted news source. You're listening to those people. By now, if you haven't read On Tyranny, you're going to read On Tyranny. I forgot to look it up. Is it How to Stand Up to a Dictator? I have it as an audiobook. I'm almost done with it, but I've forgotten the name. Can someone tell me? Hi, sweet Kathy. No. I know, kitten. Stay strong. Keep breathing. Stay with me here. How to Resist a Dictator. I can't remember. I'm really bad at details, at books and stuff. We're looking for online. We're going to stay connected to online communities. This is where I'm going to go back, and yes, I'm going to talk about churches one more time. We who are part of the unchurched, we have a disadvantage because a lot of times we left our spiritual communities, which means we lost maybe our physical connections in our local community. So now we have to have a concerted effort to find those, but we can also still find community in these spaces. It may look different, but it can still help. The one thing I will say to you is, for those of you who are still part of your spiritual community, I do not want I want to strongly encourage you to consider other communities. I'm not saying leave church, but if all they're asking you to do is donate so that the church can give with the same structure of zero accountability, because you are in one of those churches who doesn't reveal their financial statements, then that is not a church that's going to help you through this crisis. If a church is not being a part of sacred activism, warning you against Christian nationalism, helping you prepare your family and your loved ones and your community for what could happen, then that church is gaslighting you. It is not helpful to you, and it is trying to set up a system where it will benefit financially without accountability. We're not doing that in 2026. You have to take responsibility for finding information outside of that structure, because you're being spoon-fed from the pulpit to only continue to perpetuate a problem that you now know exists. You have to understand that you have to do something different and find people who are actively resisting and preparing your community for the things that need to happen, not just the feel-good stuff. Thank you, Lynette. How to Stand Up to a Dictator. So, okay, I know I've said this several times. This preparation mindset, that means we're not panicking, we're not hoarding. We're going to think about the supplies we need. We're going to expand our conversations to community however we can. You can think about the people that you want to follow. And I want you to be real careful in the homesteading communities. There are some out there, and I will name one, Reed Homestead, who is absolutely xenophobic. There are many people teaching you how to can. There are many people teaching you how to prep. You do not need to give them your financial support. You do not need to give them even your views, because there are other people out there who can teach you just the same without you continue to support an ideology that literally is going to unalive people. Do not do it. Do not do it. So I'm going to give you some names. First of all, if you have not seen Stand with Minnesota, I can't put the URL in because they don't like that. Sarah, I was just getting ready to give your name. You were here. Oh my gosh. Can you request? I'm talking about you next. Can you? Oh, thank. I don't believe this. Are you here? Sarah!
Hello.
I could hear you. Hi.
I'm in my pajamas, so I'm not going to cam up. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. Oh my gosh. How did you find me?
I don't know. I was just sitting here literally having my coffee and making my list for the day, and I got a pop-up notification that you were live, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen her in forever. Let me go see what's going on.
You are literally next because I just said to beware of the homestead community that is racist and homophobic, and I was just getting ready to say your name, and there you are.
Line is very strong. You've got to be very careful.
Yeah. So Sarah, just real quick, share your story and some of the content that you share, because I know you are getting hit hard with a storm. I just saw your video where you were talking about your chickens and how you're keeping them alive in sub-zero weather. Oh my gosh.
Homesteading up here is not for the weak, that's for sure. Just a little bit about my story and my background. I never intended on being a quote unquote homesteader. Okay, so that was kind of a lifestyle that we grew up in. And I grew up in the Midwest where blizzards and cold weather and things, I'm from Indiana. You know how it goes. And so it was just kind of a lifestyle I always grew up in. And then as I got older, I just expanded that and did more of it. And then I accidentally came on TikTok, just like everybody did during the COVID time. And within a year, I had over 1 million followers, just wondering what I do, how I do it. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize so many people didn't live kind of the way I lived. So, and that's all I do. My number one goal is to feed the world. That's it. I try not to get too involved on either side of the political party. I believe in basic human rights. I believe that all politicians are dirty politicians. Let's just be honest. And so I try to stay out of that, because my goal and my main focus is that people are able to take back their control. They're able to feed their families and take care of themselves the way they deem is best suited for them. And so whatever religion, whatever color, whatever you're going through and whatever your government is trying to impose on you during that time, that you have the resources that you need to keep up with it, keep up with whatever life is throwing at you, that you can remain comfortable and that you can remain safe.
So important. It's easy to, it's harder to prep, but it's easy when you've just made it into conscious choices about the way you're going to live. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I certainly have seen the changes in me over the last year and what I've tried to do, but nowhere where I'm ready to start teaching anybody anything. But
I think we're all like that. I mean, even I'm 46 years old and I've lived this way my whole life. So even where I'm at right now, I'm always looking at my systems and going, where can I improve? What can I do better on, And then life will throw something at you, like we had a pipe burst and our house flooded. And I was like, how can I do this better for the next time? Because that's all life is. It's just the learning lessons as you go. So nobody has to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect in your systems. You don't have to be a puritist in anything that you do. You just have to want to do better every single time and just grow.
Tell us about your book, because I have it. I love it. It's out of reach right now, but tell us about your book, and then also tell us about your playlist, because I have just gone to go look at, especially your, the one that you did on the Jackery. The solar generator is so informative. So share a little bit about that.
Sure. sure. And I'm sorry about the barking dog. The mail
It's okay.
just came. And so the book is called Preserving with a Purpose by Sarah Thrush. And it really is looking at food preservation with a purpose in mind. And everybody's purpose can be different. It could be because you want to eat better. It could be because on a lower income, or you just want to be more in harmony with the earth. It could be so many different things, but the book walks you through whatever your purpose is, how to get to that end goal. So it covers water bath canning and pressure canning and pickling and all the things that you would find in a canning book with all these great recipes, but it also gives you a grow guide. What can I grow during certain times of the year, and then how would I preserve that? It gives you garden planning. It gives you how many jars am I going to need? And it sets you up with a system so that you can build outwards what you want that system to look like for how you feed your family. And what was the other question you asked me?
Your playlist, because I went back and was able to easily find your video on the Jackery, the solar.
Jackery.
Yeah, so do you have a playlist about prep, emergency prep, or what is it called?
I do, and it's called the Emergency Prep List. And
Okay.
so my videos, I try to categorize all of those. Canning videos, frequently asked questions, and then emergency preparations. And we live in an area that's very remote, okay? So we don't have a lot of resources up here. We have to rely on ourselves. It's not a matter of what if this thing is going to happen. It's a matter of when is this thing going to happen, right? So our power goes out. It's negative 20 degrees outside. What are we going to do? And so I kind of approach emergency preps from that kind of angle. What would you do if this happens? And then the emergency prep list also has you on like a building system. So you can look at what we do when the lights go out. And so when the lights go out, our water goes out. What happens when the water goes out? And you can look at these videos and kind of build, well, I've got this, but I need that still. And what happens if I have the Jackery, but I don't have enough solar energy to power the Jackery? What do I do next? Because it's not just about building that first system. We have a saying in prepping, it's, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Basically, do you have a backup system to your backup system? And it doesn't have to be elaborate. Your backup system may be candles, maybe a lantern with some oil. It could be a very simple thing. But what happens in stressful times, what happens in these emergencies is our brain stops working. It just doesn't work to its fullest capacity. So by having those things in order, when the emergency happens, you can then put your energy and attention into solving the emergency instead of solving all the other problems that the emergency causes.
That is so good. So please, Sarah was going to be like the first one on my list for you to go follow. So please do that. Sarah, I still can't believe that you came in just as your name is on the next line of what I was gonna say. Is there anything else that you would recommend? So I started this video talking about like the way I was taught about this kind of emergency prep is to think about what your family would need for the first week. Like if you lost all the resources that make life comfortable, but also make life sustainable, what is it that you would need? What do you think about that they need to consider when it comes to doing that kind of prep?
So I always, when I'm teaching, I say, we're going to look at the 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. For 24 hours, what does my family need to survive? We need a roof over our head. We need heat or cooling. We're going to need food and we're going to need water. So when you start prepping, you're going to start there. You're not going to start prepping for a whole week out, right? You're not going to look for a whole week's worth of food, a whole week's worth of water. You're just going to look at that 24 hours. Once you have that 24 hours secured and you have, okay, I have a bin here. It's a Rubbermaid bin. It's got some candles. It's got some emergency battery packs. It's got some water and it's got some food in it. You know what? I know my family's going to be safe for 24 hours. Then I'm going to start looking at what would we need to extend that for a week? And then what would we need to extend that for a month? So I'm going to tell you a lot of preppers, and I hate to even use that word because sometimes it has like that negative connotation attached to it.
Yeah.
But all we're really doing is being prepared for emergency situations, right? One thing that if you start noticing a prepper telling you this, I would say maybe veer away from that, is that you're never going to need enough to sustain you a year or more or a lifetime. Because if the emergency is going on for that long, your environment is going to change. And those things that you have in your preps are going to change. You're going to need different types of emergency preps, right? So if we're looking at something crazy like an EMP attack or something like that, and it wipes out the whole grid, that emergency is going to change over time. Those things that you thought you needed are not going to be those things anymore. So I always suggest to people, don't get too scared by preppers that are telling you, you got to have a year's worth of food or 2 years, or I need these 25-year buckets. Those things are great. They're nice to have, but the emergency is going to change. What you need to start with is that first 24 hours, and then maybe extend it to the 1 week or the 1 month. After that, you're good. You're good because there's going to be help. Communities are going to come together. And that's the important part here. Communities come together. They start helping each other. They start sharing resources. And we start banding together as communities to get over those very long humps.
That's so good. That's so good. I see some comments. People have been kind of stuck. I hope this helps them. Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you were on, and I just happened to get the notification. I've been thinking about you a lot. I know you've been going through a lot, and it's just so wonderful to see you up and fighting the good fight again.
Thank you. I'm better. And yes, let's stay in touch. Thank you, dear.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Oh my gosh, that was wonderful. So Sarah is at, let me scoot this over. In case you didn't catch that, Peelies and Petals. I'm going to put her username because that's exactly what I was getting ready to do. You will find Sarah at Peelies and Petals, and you can find her on all the other platforms as well, not just here. On TikTok and YT. She's all over the place. Another person, I told you about Poly Prepper, but one of the sites that I found that I've referred a couple of people to, and this is more of just like the kind of community action you can do when you see a community going through a really a horrific crisis, which is what is happening in Minnesota right now. But there is a site called Stand With Minnesota, and that's just the site. You can go find it, and you can see there the organizations who are doing things to help. They've been vetted, and they're doing things to help what's happening in Minnesota. So that's a good example of the kind of information that can be compiled for a region so that you know all the resources that and the people, the movers, the boots on the ground, if you will, of things that are going on. And to that, I'm gonna start to land this plane, but I'm gonna talk about something because this is what I wanted to say that it has to be said, because I'm seeing some conversations around the type of resistance that's going to have to happen in order to see the change that we need to have. And if you don't know who Dr. Cornel West is, please go. I could not find the video on TikTok. The only place I've been able to see it is on Book of the Face. And it's his January 25th video. So for those of you who don't know who Dr. West is, he's a professor at Harvard. He's taught at Princeton and Union Theological Seminary. He's a massive voice in the political activism and well known for his work in race, gender, and classism in America. And in his video that he posted on January 25th, he says, "We have reached a fork in the road. Even when you push on the legal front, when the power takes over, when the power that's taking over comes directly out of a gangster riot Trump administration, what do? You engage in civil mass disobedience. You hit the streets. You call for a national strike, not just in Minnesota, but across the nation, to let the world know that enough is enough. Because the alternative is what?" Now, these are his words. John F. Kennedy Jr. said, "What? Those who make nonviolent change impossible make violent change inevitable. But he says, that this is Dr. Cornel West says, what do we do in the name of truth, justice, and love? Well, for me, I come out of the legacy of Martin, and he's referencing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I come out of a revolutionary spirit in which everyday people need to take back power materially, economically, politically, and spiritually. Holding on to love and justice, but organized to bring pressure to bear on those unaccountable elites in high places. Let us be fortified in our struggle, and let us not allow the powers that be to break our spirits or to steal our joy as we continue to serve others. So what I want you to hear there is that civil mass, a mass mobilization of resistance. And then I listened to a video from Scott Galloway, and if you don't know who Scott is, he's a professor of marketing from NYU. He's globally respected author and teacher. He hosts a podcast that you can find on YT called Pivot with journalist Kara Swisher. And on that, they posted it a few days ago. It's called the Alex Preddy shooting. Scott says that protests aren't going to move the needle. So he's been talking to some people about some ideas for change, and the first thing that he says is to start making a list. Statute of limitations, letting people know that statutes of limitations on unaliving is never. There is no statute of limitations. However, I don't even think the threat of that is enough. This is me personally talking. I don't think the threat of that is enough because I think these people think they're going to get away with this. They think that the momentum is behind them, that this turnover of democracy is going to be successful, and they're never going to be held accountable. What he said was, Trump does not respond to outrage, he responds to markets. And if you go back and listen to his comments at the World Economic Forum, he made it about backing down from the threats on Greenland because of the stock market starting to dip. So that has validity, but what Scott thinks is going to happen is not a labor strike, not picket lines, but something more quieter, far more unsettling to the system. And he's calling for an economic strike. And Kara pushed back with that and said, well, Minnesota did have a day. And he said, a day's not going to do it. He said, a day is an annoyance. And he said, when our entire economy is 70% consumer driven, he said, you don't realize how much the people hold the power. And what came to mind for me on that is, I think Taj travel a week. I think Scott even said a month, and it's got to be planned on that, because when you think of the Montgomery bus boycott, it took 381 days. 381 days, and the reason that was successful was the planning behind it. The planning behind it that said that they knew this was going to be such a disruption to the people in the community, the black people who knew that they needed the bus system to survive. They had to come together and strategize to say, well, how are we going to survive without buses if we're going to impact change? And they did it. They did it. They didn't back down until change happened. And that's the model. That is the model for the massive. So when you put together, this is Rev. Karla talking. You put together what Dr. Cornel West said, January 25th video. When I put clips of this together, Lynette, I want to work on putting clips of both video, what Scott said and what Dr. West said. You put what Dr. West said with massive mobilization, and Scott Galloway saying about Trump not responding to outrage, but responding to market shifts, something quieter, far more unsettling. That's the roadmap. That is the roadmap. That doesn't mean not to work on the things that we've been talking about this entire live stream. which is the protests, the voting, calling your senators, all those things. Deconstructing sinner, I know that there's lists out there that show, but I think it's more of just saying, I'm going to sit out of the economy. And then knowing that there are restaurants in your community that you would want to support, that are very much wanting, that aren't supporting the authoritarian regime that is our government right now. So it would require a massive conversation and a massive effort. And I'm willing to be a part of that conversation. It starts locally, and then I think it expands and hopefully explodes to something nationally. But I think that's what needs to happen. I forgot to pull it up, but I have something for you. I can't find it. I can't get it to come up, sorry. Where is it? Give me a minute. When I was thinking about, when I was putting the notes together for this live stream today, because I know this is heavy stuff, and I know it's hard. Mama says we need to organize from within to make sure there are alternatives to help people survive. That's the biggest thing. You can't call for a strike and not understand the economic impact, the financial impact with people who are. How many percentage of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? We can't. It has to be something that is so incredibly strategic and intentional. But it can be done, but we have to have these conversations. We have to have these conversations. The Democrats are not going to save us. The church is not going to save us. No one's coming to rescue us. Jesus certainly ain't coming to save us. But I wrote a blessing. And even that word will trigger some of you who have deconstructed and you just need to stay away from that kind of language. But I'm tapped out for today when it comes to talking about this. Like I said, this entire live stream will be on YT. Clips of it will be put to different platforms. We'll be able to put some kind of checklist and talking points from this live onto Substack. You can look for it there. There you go, Mama. That's the key. There was so much planning and conversation that went into planning and then communication. So everybody knew. Everybody stayed. It's the same name, Mama. It's the same name. But for those of you who need to leave, if you want to hear this blessing, you can. If you don't, you can leave. I'll be back probably next week sometime. So you can, I don't know my times yet. I have to wait and see what's going on in my life, but I'll try to make that as consistent as possible so that hopefully we can put out a schedule ahead of time. But if you're ready, let's end this Substack with this blessing. May your spirituality anchor you when the world feels unmoored, reminding you that your humanity is sacred and worth defending. May you be protected from systems that seek to silence, shame, or erase you. And may your spirit learn to recognize danger without being consumed by fear. May your anger sharpen into clarity, not cruelty, and may it move you towards justice rather than despair. May you remember that resistance is not separate from love, and that care for the vulnerable is a holy act. May you find strength in community, knowing you were never meant to survive this moment alone. May you rest when you need to, rise when it's time, and trust your own discernment about when to do each. May your life itself become a quiet refusal to comply with dehumanization, domination, and harm. May you be brave enough to stay soft in a world that rewards hardness, and wise enough to guard your tenderness fiercely. May you know that choosing goodness in dark times is an act of sacred defiance. And may you reclaim your spirituality and define it in ways that is sacred to you and that honors your life's journey. May you invite only those into your inner circle who love you so unconditionally that they celebrate without limit and that they guard your heart too. And may you turn back to your life as a better version of yourself, walking fully in your authenticity. I believe that for you. Now go be who you are. May it be so, and so it is. Blessed be. Thank you. I'm so honored. I know you had options today to spend your time, and I'm so honored that you spent it with me. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, the comments. Please go to my profile, follow me on other platforms, including Substack. Thank you all, you beautiful souls. I'll be back soon. Bye for now.